Well, here we are. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you're joining us live, if you're watching us on replay, great also. Another session of Xcession TV. Very interested to see how the auto captions pick up on that particular statement. Daniel Gilby, account manager here at Xcession. If you've not joined these before, just very quickly, Xcession are a consulting implementation and managed services organization working across a variety of ITSM platforms. And what we're here to talk about today is we're interviewing one of the vendors, one of the solution providers. Actually, we've got some insights coming for you there. And very interestingly, today we're talking with Sunrise. In fact, not one of our partners, but Son, I know you had some views on that, and then perhaps you'd be able to give a quick intro equally for those who've not tuned in before.
Lovely, thank you, Daniel. So, yep, Sunil Dougal, CRO of Xcession. Sunrise. So not, as you just said, one of the vendors that we have partnered with, but because at Xcession we are all about acting in the best interest of the customer, that might mean that they actually look for solutions that sits outside of our technical skill set. So why not? You know, we thought, what a great opportunity. We've had some engagement with Sunrise via some excellent work that you did, Dan, around the freedom of information analysis in the public sector. So this is super exciting, right? We're going to get a different point of view.
Absolutely. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome David Bullivant, Sales Director here at Sunrise. David, thanks for taking time to join us. Great to have you on the show, as it were. Please, if you'd give a quick introduction and maybe tell us a bit more about Sunrise.
Sure, absolutely. And first of all, thanks for having me on. Obviously, great to come along and chat to you both. And hello to everyone. So I'm David Bullivant. I'm Director of Sales at Sunrise Software. I've been at Sunrise for 17 years now, but previously worked for HP. So I've been working in various sales roles in service management for around about 20 years. Obviously, most of my time has been at Sunrise Software. So a quick bit about Sunrise. Sunrise are a service management software vendor based within the UK. We've actually been going now for nearly 30 years. So we're one of the first vendors to have help desk solutions, as you would have called it 30 years ago. And then kind of, if you're going to fast forward probably to about 17 years ago, we were one of the first vendors to have a fully web-based product, which obviously in 2023 would be a given, but maybe 16, 17 years ago perhaps was the
very different back then.
Correct, yeah. So, but yeah, we very much focus on the software side. So we develop our own software, deliver and support it. Really focused on the ITSM arena.
And you've had a recent change of ownership, I think.
Yes, we have. So we were a privately UK-owned company for many years. We were acquired around 18 months ago by a company called Volaris, which are part of Constellation Software. They're really actually an interesting company if anyone wants to look them up. One of the largest software companies that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah.
What they actually do is they buy best-of-breed software vendors across any sector. You know, there's no particular focus. It could be any arena that they play in, but they're really after kind of vendors that specialize in their area. And what they really bring is they give that kind of best practice. So because they own hundreds of software companies, they allow us to really kind of focus on what we do. And I think for me, most of all, the biggest benefit is partner with our customers. You know, we've always built good relationships with our customers, but that journey has really gone forward in the last 18 months or so.
Are you seeing any kind of like cross-pollination there then? If Volaris have got all of these other software houses, you know, under their belt, so to speak, is there much crossover, or is it? 18 months isn't a massive amount of time for a large organization, but is there any kind of crossover, cross-pollination, whatever you want to call it? Are you seeing any of that yet, or is that still to come?
Sure. So, yeah, actually, yes, we are seeing a little bit of that already. So, obviously, although perhaps the software we deliver it may be very different, you know, that they don't necessarily own any other ITSM vendors per se. What we do find is the thing we have in common is our customers. So, whilst each sort of company works autonomously, what we have found is, for example, sectors like the NHS, where we have shared customers, we can really kind of partner and make sure we offer the customers a good experience. Technically as well, of course, it's very easy for us to kind of work with fellow Volaris companies and look at things like integrations and that type of activity. So definitely starting, Daniel, but I'd expect more to come as well as our kind of experience of Volaris grows over the next few years.
Interesting. So David, can I ask you a question? So there are in the ITSM world, obviously some big players, some familiar names, some of whom we partner with, some of whom we don't.
Sure.
And I guess that maybe outside of the UK market, Sunrise is possibly relatively little known. Would that be fair to say? And possibly even in the UK market, your profile is not as high as as some of these big players. So maybe it would be really good for you to just talk a little bit about, I guess, why you think customers should look at Sunrise, and maybe what makes you stand out a little bit from some of those other names that we know so much about.
Sure, yeah, and I think the first statement's fair, Sunil, that really a lot of our focus is on is on the UK market, right? So while some of our customers are global via the nature of our sort of web-based SaaS software, a lot of that interest starts within the UK. So I think it's fair to say that most people within the UK would have heard of Sunrise. If you were to go outside of the UK, sort of less well known, as you said, it may be people in the UK are not as familiar with Sunrise. It would probably depend on sort of where we've been, where they've been, and what their history is. So to kind of come on to the question. So I think where Sunrise really kind of work well is we absolutely specialize in service management. So some vendors obviously look to fix various different areas. What we look to do really is, of course, there's peripherals where we can integrate, but we very much focus on that service management pitch. So what we kind of offer our clients is that kind of all-encompassing, fully integrated ITSM product focused really around that ITIL best practice. So we really look to give customers as much as we kind of reasonably can out of the box. So I think that's kind of the key area. I guess as a company as well, we find that we're able to kind of partner really well with our customers, because we, I guess, have everything under our control. So, things may change as we grow, right? And we're speaking to your good sales today, but currently everything is within the Sunrise umbrella, if you like. So all of our development, professional services, all of our support, it's all part of one company, which a lot of our customers, I feel appreciate.
It's like a one-stop shop. They don't have to go here, there, and everywhere to get what they need. They can just come to you, David and the team, and we know who's going to sort that out. Should there be challenges or things they want to talk about, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair, Daniel. Everything's under that Sunrise umbrella, so the buck stops with Sunrise, right? And right. Also as well, the people, like I mentioned how long I've been at Sunrise. We've got very long-standing staff, which is really important. We have people that absolutely have really spent their lives in the ITSM industry, right? So I think that's something that our customers appreciate. Really, is that kind of focus rather than trying to maybe offer a tool that's perhaps a bit more broader, trying to tick a number of boxes.
So there's a depth of knowledge and a depth of experience. Sorry, Sunil.
No, go down.
No, I was just going to comment. It's just kind of playing back what David had just said. You've got people who've worked in Sunrise, in the ITSM industry for a significant amount of time. They've been there, they've seen it, they've got the T-shirt, and people can draw down. Your client base can draw down from that experience. So you're saying that's one of the how would you call that? A softer benefit, I suppose, or less tangible, but certainly real.
Yeah.
If that's
well, I guess
in itself. Sorry.
My question, I think, David, though, would be: does that play out? Do you see then, because when I look at the SaaS market for ITSM at the moment, right? One of the, and you were obviously an early mover, right, into SaaS from a service management solution perspective, which is fantastic. But if you look at the current market now, you could argue there's quite a lot of commoditization, isn't there, around service management solutions, and I referenced the freedom of information analysis that Daniel did, and there were, I don't know, 50 players or something like that out there. I mean, some, obviously the ServiceNows of the world, some tiny ones you've never heard of, but, and by virtue of so many players in the marketplace, I think you end up with commoditization, don't you? And SaaS just makes that a bit easier. But, are your customers sort of sticking with you, or how are you stopping them from kind of having their eyes, distracted by something shiny and new over here?
Yeah, really interesting point. I mean, I guess the first thing I do is quickly sort of reference back to Volaris. So one of the things about Volaris is they are a buy and hold for life company, right? So all of our customers now know, in a market where there is consolidation and I guess potentially no certainty, there will now always be a Sunrise Software, right? So Volaris have never... that they've acquired companies, they never sell them, they're not venture capitalists. So the thing that our clients are really feeding back that they're happy with is they know now that there will always be a Sunrise Software, always developing service management. So on the kind of company profile thing, I think that's reassuring, because as you rightly referenced, Sunil, there's a very broad spectrum of vendors, if you like, and obviously there has been some consolidation. In the FOI report you did, which was really interesting, there was even probably a couple of vendors where there was 2 products in use that have since been acquired, and some of them end of life. So the company profile helps. I think the other thing, and obviously a lot of people say it, but I'll give you a bit of a perhaps justification why we feel it's fair, is we have a very strong customer success program. So what we try and do is, it's important to us that our customers touch all areas of the business. So you'd expect us to have an account management function, which I believe is strong, and speaks to our customers. But throughout the kind of first 12 months and 18 months, there's meetings with our product teams, our professional services teams. So we expose all of our customers to all of Sunrise, and it kind of works both ways, because it means that, if you work in development for Sunrise, you understand the customer needs. You're not just, for want of a better word, locked away in a room writing code. So the success program we find has been really useful.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, because a lot of, the sort of hyper growth SaaS businesses, not just in ITSM, but generally in the marketplace, the focus, because it drives company valuation, is so much on customer acquisition and, growth when you have acquired a customer, that actually you tend to stop worrying about the success that customer should be achieving using the software that they have bought. So you're saying that actually your view is quite different. It's Volaris are in it for life. They're not gonna flip you to somebody else, and because they're in it for life, they see a customer. When they win a customer, when they acquire a customer, that customer is also for life, and so you're going to make the investment to make sure that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I were a customer, that would be very, very encouraging.
Yeah, exactly. And the great thing is, it's not just Sunrise saying it. Volaris own hundreds of companies, and if you look at all of them, what they're really looking to do is get sustainable, consistent growth, but which is achieved via long-term relationships with your customers. It's not a kind of rapid expansion type approach. So absolutely correct.
Yeah. So let's. Tell us what your ideal customer, if you were to highlight, and I know this is super difficult, right? It's like a marketing coaching 101 session, right? David, tell me what your ideal customer looks like.
Sure.
But what'd be interesting would be to hear, today how you would answer that question, and then maybe what you might see in, say, 3 or 5 years' time. Is that going to change, do you think, with the impact of Volaris as an owner coming through the business?
Yeah, and that's a really interesting sort of question. I'll answer it in terms of how we see the market as well, and obviously yourselves, you might see it differently. It'd be interesting to hear your view as well. So I guess we kind of look at the market in 3 segments, really. So at the top, we see these kind of global, tier one companies, across across every country, really every sector, service management vendors with very broad solutions. Some may say very expensive solutions, and almost all encompassing, trying to do quite a lot. Often they will sell to similar tier one companies, right, that are global across many countries as well. So that's kind of your top tier. To flip it, you then have your bottom tier, which is kind of more, I say downloadable, but in the world of SaaS, more kind of off the shelf, plug and play. Very limited. But if you're a small company looking to implement a service desk for the first or second time, there's some very cost effective out of the box solutions, right? So that takes out those two areas, and then you almost get left with that middle area, right? Which is, I think, what you were referring to earlier, Sunil and Daniel, you found in your research, really, the various research you've done. There's a big kind of middle tier where, yes, some of the bigger vendors drop down to kind of, for want of a better word, play in that sector. But, there's that big middle tier where people need powerful, scalable solutions that can do a lot, but they're not necessarily looking for a tier one vendor. So that's really, it's probably the biggest market, and it's where we play. I mean, sectors that are very big for you. Obviously, you did your big for us. Obviously, you did your FOI research, and you found we're one of the sort of top two vendors in the NHS. So public sector, and back to the sort of ideal customer. Almost any NHS trust would be an ideal customer for us. That's the reality of our focus. But we also work with lots of other sectors as well, legal, financial. So I don't believe we're tied to a sector. So that's kind of our assessment of the market. At the moment, as I mentioned, and I'll come on to your 3 to 5 years bit. At the moment, a lot of the interest with Sunrise starts from the UK. So if you were saying the ideal profile, it wouldn't be just a UK company, but a company that maybe has a decent presence within the UK would be fair to say as of 2023. And to kind of tee up answering your second part of the question, I think that will change because now we've got the Volaris element. Obviously, they are a global organisation. They own many companies, often based in the US and Canada. So I would expect the difference in 3-5 years' time would be probably not, the ideal customer wouldn't necessarily just be UK centric, right? That would probably flip to be more globally focused.
Well, David, I will, if you are leading a charge into the North American market, right, I'm going to wish you the very best of luck, because having run a sales team trying to sell into America and Canada, right, as a UK organisation, that's quite hard work. You need to have feet on the ground. That's all I'm saying.
You'd need a sales force there, but if Volaris are an American organisation, then that shouldn't be too much of a stretch. But just to look back to a couple of things you said there. So we talked about how if you're a customer, you get this full wrap package of customer engagement from Sunrise, and then just to talk about the freedom of information analysis. And I was going to ask you, given the presence that you have within the NHS and NHS trusts, one, whether there is any kind of specific use cases or particular successes that you could share and talk about. And equally, are you seeing that, I'll use the word cross-pollination again, because what works for one NHS trust arguably should work for another, maybe of a comparable size, and so on and so forth. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts around those two areas, please, David.
Yeah, sure. So, certainly in terms of use cases, we have some, probably some of the better ones would be someone like Informatics Merseyside, who are a very large NHS organisation providing primarily IT support, but also other support like finance and HR to a large number of NHS organisations in the Northwest. They've actually used Sunrise for many years. They've come from older platforms before the latest offering, and stayed with Sunrise throughout those years, really as kind of a key partner. They use Sunrise obviously for IT for many trusts, but they've also gone down that enterprise service management journey. onboarding areas like finance. So their finance team handle finance queries and other areas as well. So they're
on the Sunrise solution.
Yeah, absolutely. All using what you would class as like the same instance, right? But just benefiting from things like different security groups and profiles, so people see information that they want to see. In terms of rolling it out across other NHS trusts, absolutely. I mean, every customer is different. We respect that, but we always look for where there is commonality. So one of the things we've done is we have an ITSM template, but we also have like a ITSM healthcare template where we've just tried to put in specific functionality, particularly for that healthcare sector. So to give you an example, we've added on things like freedom of information, just as a kind of an add-on, because we found that a lot of NHS trusts were doing that. So yeah, we do evolve our template where we see commonality, because we have a cluster of customers, particularly in the Northwest, where there is overlap. So there is commonality, but they perhaps all have a slightly different twist on what.
That's really interesting, David. That the domain centric templates, right? So the fact that you have built one for the NHS is perhaps different to other vendors who have I've taken a slightly different view on it and have said, right, well, we will have a template, for example, for HR or a template for finance, but actually haven't then gone, let's develop templates for a specific industry domain or a vertical, however you want to, talk about it. But so that must be quite a powerful sales message when you get in front of a new prospect in the NHS and you can say, actually, we have aligned our solution to your specific needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously we have one product, right? So we develop one product, and as you rightly said, Sunil, it's different templates. I think from my point of view, it's important because it's genuine, right? We're not just turning up to the NHS and saying, because we're an NHS trust, that this is what we do. We've actually taken the time outside of any individual opportunity to get our team working on evolving that template. So yeah, I really think that's something that is important for us. And obviously, as we grow in other sectors, we'd look to do the same thing where we see commonality for other sectors as well, if the need arises.
Yeah. And can I just be clear, David, the freedom of information template element, that's nothing to do with because I was bombarding the NHS with freedom of information requests earlier this year, right?
That is correct, Daniel. Yeah, it is purely, if you think about it, from a process,
whenever it was.
It allows our customers to capture those FOI requests they may get from yourself, perhaps as well.
Yeah, indeed.
There's about 500 tickets with Daniel Gilby's name on, aren't there, knocking around somewhere?
But that is very interesting because you're quite right. There's things like patient surveys, prems and proms, and all of the other stuff that the NHS is kind of directed to do, and having that capability, I guess, out of the box, or just like, here's a template you can download and whoop, it's all kind of there for you, certainly would be very compelling, rather than having to either A, run that through a different system, or B, bespoke it somehow, or C, another way to manage that. So that's certainly something I think other vendors should be maybe either considering or making people more aware of the fact that they have that, if they do. Yeah, very interesting indeed. Absolutely. So we've talked about the full wrap customer experience. We've talked about kind of ideal customers and things. If you had to be completely brutally honest, where would you say there was sort of the weaker areas in the solution would lie?
I was going to ask that question slightly differently by saying what's on the roadmap, but
I've gone for the harsher option.
It's gone straight in at the solar plexus.
Straight for the jugular.
Great question for both of you, and I'll try my best to answer both kind of openly. I mean, one of the things as well is, we're very open, right? We really value the long-term success, right? Yeah, we're not about just winning a deal if it's not right, for kind of a short-term win, if it's not going to lead to long-term success. Because for us, I think referenceability, people move from company to company, and buyers, I've had people that have bought Sunrise 3 or 4 times, through that kind of relationship. So we're quite open and honest, and we always want to do good long-term business, not short-term wins. So I guess in terms of that area, one of the areas we're really focusing on, which will link into the roadmap, and it may be, some may see it as a weakness at the moment, some may not, but we've always been very good at interoperability. I mentioned we focus on ITSM, so we have very flexible APIs that allow integration across all areas, automation, integration with any platforms. And a lot of our customers use the APIs and build those integrations. But what we sometimes find now, particularly with consolidation, is people want more like off-the-shelf package integrations, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, not everyone has API skills. Not everyone wants to learn 2 products. Some people just want off-the-shelf areas. So part of our roadmap over the next year or so and beyond is bringing to market more off-the-shelf package integration. So to give you a very quick example, we're working on an Ask Sunrise, which is kind of a bot which sits within Teams. So, we're going to kind of make, take feedback from our customers, but make some design decisions for them so we can offer them like an out-of-the-box integrated bot. So, and I suppose if you look at some of the bigger vendors, they'll have online app stores, right, where you can download a whole plethora of integrations. Now, technically, you can integrate Sunrise exactly the same as all of those integrations because, at the highest level, without going into technology, APIs integrations are generally quite common. We have best practice APIs. So, that's an area on the roadmap where expect to see more package integrations and that type of thing coming from Sunrise.
Yeah.
Okay, so just making it easier for that customer to get what they want. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Exactly,
Sunil, did you have a question? My mind's just gone blank.
I mean, no. So I think this has been really fascinating because for us, we've made some decisions around the partners and the ecosystem that we want to work within because that suits us as an organization and our technical skill set. What is your partner ecosystem like at the moment? I mean, I know you've said that customers talk to Sunrise, but that's only scalable to a certain degree, isn't it? And then at a certain point, that might become limiting because you might want to acquire more customers than you could possibly or potentially serve. So I just wondered whether there were thoughts or plans around developing that kind of partner ecosystem and and how that might work, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's fair to say that obviously currently we kind of grow and scale up as a company in terms of internally in line with our customer base, which kind of grows as well, which is great. So I think, again, since the Volaris acquisition, a lot more focus has gone on that partner network. We have a lot of people. We don't have like official resellers as such that are where there's a commercial arrangement to sell Sunrise. But what we have is a big range of companies that we work with and partner with and work kind of like collaboratively. So I think so watch this space really. We're at the moment we very much deliver the services ourselves, but we're very open to, as we scale, actually look at how we can get partners. The only thing I would say is we would make sure that we had all our partners would always be very close partners that we felt could offer the same level of service. We would never jeopardize that. Obviously, having Volaris, you mentioned America. Volaris have a lot of companies in America that do have feet on the street that can deliver these types of products. So it'd be interesting to see, and obviously there's companies like yourself that offer and work in that area. So really, really exciting times. I can't tell you exactly where it's going to go and how it's going to grow, but what I can tell you is in 2 or 3 years' time, I'm sure things will be very different.
Very different indeed.
I think.
David, we're kind of coming up to the 30 minutes that we'd agreed with you. It might just tick over that, in fact. But
yeah, sure.
Why don't we park it there, so to say? And thank you very much. I quite agree with Sunil. Really interesting, very insightful. Certainly for us, as Sunil's pointed out a couple of times now, we don't partner with Sunrise presently. So it's been very interesting to kind of hear from a vendor that we don't have a high degree of familiarity with. Just to the audience, I hope you found this interesting and useful. If you've got questions or you'd like to reach out to find out more about Sunrise, please do contact David. He's on LinkedIn. Equally, if you'd like to get involved or get engaged or speak to Sunil or myself, again, just reach out. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we hope to see you on the next session very, very soon. David, Sunil, thanks very much.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, David. Really appreciate it.
No, thanks. Great to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Cheers.
Cheers.